If you're starting from zero in your 40s or 50s, and you've been quietly wondering whether it's already too late to build real dividend income, I want to show you the actual math, because the numbers are a lot less scary than you think. Here's what this video is about. Most dividend content assumes you already have a portfolio. It talks to the person who started at 25 with a Roth IRA and a plan. This video is not for that person. This is for the person who is 45, or 48, or 52, and has basically nothing saved yet, and wants to know honestly whether starting right now in 2026 still leads somewhere meaningful. And I'm going to walk you through the real numbers, the 2026 IRS rules most people don't know exist, and 2 specific growth scenarios you can plug your own age and monthly amount into. By the end of this, you'll know your number, not a guess, your actual projected number. And I want to start with something that I think a lot of people need to hear before we get into any math. About 38% of households headed by someone between 45 and 54 have zero retirement savings. That's not a fringe case. That's not a rare failure story. That's roughly 4 out of every 10 people in exactly this age bracket, according to Federal Reserve survey data. So if you're starting from zero right now, you are not behind some exceptional curve. You are statistically in the middle of it. The $0 starting point isn't shameful. It's the median experience for this age group. And that matters, because the first thing that kills people's momentum before they even start is the belief that everyone else figured this out years ago and they're the only one who missed it. Most people missed it. The question is just what you do from here. So let's talk about what from here actually looks like. I'm going to use SCHD as the running example throughout this video. It's the same fund I've referenced before on this channel, so if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll recognize it. Right now in 2026, SCHD yields about 3.33%, and its 10-year average annual total return has been around 12.6%. For our math, I'm going to use 2 more conservative scenarios, 8% and 10%, because I'd rather show you a number you can actually count on than hype you up with a best-case projection. Here's where it gets interesting. And this is the part most dividend content gets completely wrong. People look at a 3.3% yield and think, okay, that's what I'll be earning forever. But that's not how dividend investing actually works. SCHD has raised its dividend every single year for 14 straight years, with a 10.4% annual dividend growth rate over the past decade. So what that means in practice is that the yield on your original investment, what's called yield on cost, keeps climbing over time even if you never add another dollar. If you invest today at 3.3%, that same invested dollar is projected to be yielding roughly 5.4% on its original cost in 5 years, around 8.9% in 10 years, and somewhere near 14.6% in 15 years, based on SCHD's own historical dividend growth rate. That's a projection, not a promise, and I'll always be clear about that. But the point is that the income your investment throws off is not static. It grows. And that changes the math on starting late in a pretty significant way. But before we get to the specific numbers, there's something else I want to flag that almost nobody in this space talks about. And it's actually one of the most powerful things working in your favor if you're starting now. Market crashes are not your enemy. I know that sounds backwards, especially if you're 50 and thinking about a 2008 style drop wiping out 5 years of progress. But here's the actual mechanism. When stock prices fall, dividend yields go up, because the same dollar of dividend payment is now attached to a cheaper share price. So when you're reinvesting dividends during a downturn, you're automatically buying more shares of companies like Johnson & Johnson or Procter & Gamble at a discount. Your DRIP, dividend reinvestment plan, turns every dip into a bigger position. The people who got destroyed in 2008 were the ones who panic sold. The ones who kept reinvesting quietly came out the other side with significantly more shares than they started with. For a late starter, this is actually one of the structural advantages of dividend investing over pure growth chasing. Volatility becomes fuel instead of a threat. Okay, now let's get into the actual numbers because this is what you came for. Starting from zero, contributing $500 a month. If you're 40 today and you start right now, by 65 you're looking at somewhere between $475,000 at the conservative 8% rate and $663,000 at the historical 10% rate. At a 3.3% dividend yield, that generates between $1,308 and $1,824 per month in dividend income. Not bad for starting from nothing. If you're 45 and starting today with $500 a month, you reach somewhere between $294,000 and $379,000 by 65, which pays out between $810 and $1,044 a month in dividends. And if you're 50, starting from zero with $500 a month, you're looking at $173,000 to $207,000, producing between $476 and $570 a month. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's not enough to fully replace income. And you're right. $500 a month probably isn't your full retirement. But here's the thing. It was never supposed to be the whole picture. That's $500 to $1,800 a month that doesn't require you to show up anywhere. It's income that runs whether you're working or not. And when you stack it on top of Social Security, a spouse's income, or even part-time work, the picture changes completely. But if you can stretch to $750 a month, and I'll talk about how in a second the numbers jump. At 45, starting with $750 a month, you reach between $441,000 and $569,000 by 65, generating $1,215 to $1,566 a month in dividends. At 50, that same $750 a month gets you between $259,000 and $310,000, paying out $714 to $855 per month. That's important, but if you're 50 or older and you have access to a 401k at work, there's a number I need to show you that most people in this situation have never heard, and it changes everything. For 2026, the IRS lets anyone 50 or older contribute $24,500 to their 401k plus an additional $8,000 catch-up contribution. That's $32,500 per year you can put into a tax-advantaged account. If a single earner maxes that out from age 50 to 65, 15 years, they reach somewhere between $937,000 at 8% and $1,122,000 at 10%. That generates between $30,900 and $37,000 per year in dividend income alone. That's $2,500 to $3,000 a month, from zero, starting at 50. And for the people who don't have a 401k, maybe you're self-employed, or your employer doesn't offer one, the IRA catch-up for 2026 is $7,500 per person, with an additional $1,100 catch-up for anyone 50 and older, so $8,600 total per person. A couple maxing both IRAs together contributes $17,200 a year. Over 15 years, that reaches between $495,000 and $594,000, generating real, meaningful dividend income without ever touching a 401k. There is a path here regardless of what your employer offers. Now, quick note for anyone earning over $150,000 in FICA wages in 2025. Starting in 2026, your catch-up contributions have to go into a Roth account rather than pre-tax. That's a secure 2.0 change. For most people watching this, it won't apply, but I want to mention it so nobody gets caught off guard. Here's the part that actually made me stop and reread it when I was putting this video together. For 2026, the IRS has set the 0% qualified dividend tax rate at up to $98,900 in taxable income for married couples filing jointly. Not 5%, not 10%, zero. A married couple with $98,900 or less in taxable income pays absolutely no federal tax on qualified dividends. For a household earning $50,000 to $100,000, which is a huge chunk of the people watching this, a significant portion of your eventual dividend income could be completely tax-free. This isn't a loophole or a workaround. It's the published IRS bracket, straight from Revenue Procedure 2025-32. And it almost never shows up in passive income content, which tends to make taxes sound terrifying instead of showing you what the bracket actually says. And there's one more thing on the tax side that I genuinely think is one of the most underused benefits in the entire tax code. It's called the Saver's Credit. If you're contributing to a retirement account and your household income is below $80,500 for married couples filing jointly in 2026, you may qualify for a direct tax credit, not a deduction, an actual credit, of 50%, 20%, or 10% on up to $4,000 in combined contributions for a couple. At the 50% rate, which applies below $48,500 AGI for joint filers, a couple contributing $4,000 to their IRAs gets a $2,000 credit back from the government. The IRS estimated in 2021 that only 5.7% of eligible taxpayers claimed this. The average credit was $191, which tells you most people who claim it don't even realize how much they could be getting. If you're near the lower end of that income range and you're contributing to a retirement account, you need to look this up before you file. So let's pull this together, because I want to make sure the picture is clear. If you're starting from zero in your 40s or 50s, here's what's actually working in your favor. The catch-up contribution limits are the highest they've ever been. A significant chunk of your dividend income may be taxed at 0% federally. There's a government credit most people never claim that literally pays you to save. Dividend growth means your yield on cost keeps climbing over time even without adding new money. And market volatility, the thing that scares most late starters, actually accelerates your position when you're reinvesting. None of these are theoretical. They're the actual 2026 numbers from the actual IRS publications, applied to the actual situation of someone starting from zero right now. Before you close this video, I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments. What's your starting age and what monthly amount are you working with? Drop it below. I read through these, and I want to see where people actually are, because the numbers in this video cover a range, but your specific situation matters. Tell me your age and your monthly number, and let's see what the math looks like for you. If this is the first video of mine you've watched, there's a lot more where this came from. I've got a full breakdown of SCHD specifically, and another video walking through exactly how to set up a dividend portfolio from scratch that's worth watching next. The link is right there, and if you want to make sure you catch the next one, subscribing takes about 2 seconds, and it's the only way YouTube actually shows you when I post. Here's what I want you to take away from this. You are not behind in a way that can't be fixed. The math doesn't care that you didn't start at 25. It only cares what you do starting today. And today, with the catch-up limits, the tax brackets, and the compounding mechanics all working in your direction, today is genuinely a good time to start. Not someday, now.